March if we didn't have a stunner in the first round, and we actually got two of them. Welcome to a late night edition of the Sports Note for March 16th. Happy 316 day to everybody out there. And hope everyone's responsible tomorrow for St. Patrick's Day. Don't be the least bit surprised if we see another stunner like we did. You might see me again tomorrow before we go live with the Wise Guys, and more on that here in a little bit. But the opening round of the NCAA tournament, and I'm sorry, the first four games over Tuesday and Wednesday, that's not the NCAA tournament. They need to shake that up, but that's another story for another time. But we actually saw two stunners within the first eight games. So if you think about it, as it stands right now with the third block of games, or if you're on the East Coast like me, the 7 o'clock games still going on because you got your noons, your 2:30s, your sevens, and then your 10:30s. We've actually seen two double-digit seeds already move on. We saw in an absolute head scratcher, and we're going to talk about this on the Wise Guys tomorrow. Furman upset Virginia, and a lot of people were starting to lean towards Furman giving Virginia a game, but nobody. You could have drawn that up 100 times, and you never would have come out with the outcome that you did with Furman essentially kind of getting the walk off with about 2 seconds to go. Although Virginia did have a good look at it at the end to be able to win it, but the one that we're going to talk about is the one that I'm certainly more excited for, and that would be the Princeton Tigers rekindling their first round March Madness magic and knocking off the second-seeded Arizona Wildcats. And a lot of people had Arizona coming out of that bracket. It was certainly something that could be ripe for the Wildcats to kind of come in and steal because it's something where, even though, yes, Alabama is the best team in the country, and they were the number one seed kind of going in, the fact of Alabama kind of skyrocketing this fast and not having a whole lot of consistency doesn't lead to a whole lot of sustainability in a lot of people's minds. It's something where San Diego State could have come out, Virginia could have come out, defending champion Baylor. Baylor won the title 2 years ago and was the 3 seed going in, and they will play tomorrow night. Arizona could have actually had a pretty decent run because Baylor would have been the only one stopping them from meeting up with the Crimson Tide in the first round. Nobody told Princeton here because this was a 31-30 game at the half. I had just gotten home from work when I noticed how close this was, and then I decided to flip over when I saw there was about 10-12 minutes left to go, and Arizona was up by no more than 6. It was a 12-point game with about 8 minutes to go. I'm actually on the phone with my co-host for tomorrow night, Mike Martinez, and saying, okay, this is actually now where it's where Arizona's going to take over, and they're going to extend this. They're going to pull away, and then the longer I'm on the phone with Mike for the 15-20 minutes, I actually see that lead slipping down to 5. I actually said, oh my God, it's now at 3 after Princeton hit a 3. And then right after we hung up, I tuned into this game intently. I did not sit down. I was literally standing in front of my TV about 6 feet away watching the remainder of this game. I certainly did not have a dog invested in this game, but I was paying attention to it because, number one, you always love to see a monumental upset like this, but the winner was actually going to end up playing my Mizzou Tigers on Saturday in the second round with the chance to go to the Sweet 16. So certainly I wanted to actually see, was it going to be the Tigers or was it going to be the Wildcats here? Sure, certainly enough, it turned into, now we got Tigers versus Tigers on Saturday, where Missouri with that 12-point lead went on a Arizona with that 12-point lead kind of went back and forth a little bit, and then once it was at 10, Princeton went on a on a 7-0 run, cut it to 3. That's when I said, "Oh my God," to Mike. And then after we hung up, then the final 4 minutes and 20 seconds, the 4 minutes and 21 seconds of the game, uh, Arizona didn't score again. Uh, this was the Tigers closed on a 9-0 run over that period. It was certainly a game that should have been that was a lot closer because not even so much of the way that the Tigers love to slow down with their offense, but it's also the fact that they were very close in rebounding, but the Tigers were winning all the dirty balls and 50-50 balls. It was something where the Tigers had 8 steals to Arizona's 5, but the key is that the Tigers had 6 blocks to Arizona just having 1, and 3 of those blocks came in the final 2 minutes when it was still a one-possession game. Whether it was Arizona who had the lead, or once Princeton finally took the lead for good, and it would actually end up being Princeton's only lead of the game at 56-55 with 2:03 left. This was now the third straight season that a 15 has beaten a 3 in the 15 has beaten a 2 in the opening round of the NCAA tournament. We saw the miracle run to the Elite Eight last year with St. Peter's. A couple of balls go their way. They could have actually been in the Final Four over North Carolina. We saw it in the 2021 bubble with Oral Roberts over Ohio State. This was Princeton's first tournament appearance since 2017. It was their first round win in the NCAA tournament since beating UNLV back in 1998, and it certainly is the most memorable win in program history at this point. I think it might even be bigger than their upset of then defending champion UCLA back in 1996. And let's also keep in mind that, yes, that was legendary head coach Pete Carroll, who was Pete Carrill, I'm sorry, who was the head coach of that Tigers team that knocked off the Bruins. But his starting point guard on that team was Mitch Henderson. Oh yeah, by the way, Henderson is the current coach of this year's Tigers. So roll the clock, forward, roll the calendar forward, 27 years, and it's certainly an astonishing feat for them to do this twice. One on a defending national champion, and then one for another school who's got multiple national championships and was picked by a lot of people to get to the Final Four at certainly the Elite Eight. This also is the 11th time in the history of the NCAA tournament since they expanded to 64 teams in 1985 that an 11 has knocked off a 2, but it's also very rarefied air for Arizona. And when I mean rarefied, I mean it's never happened before, because Arizona is now the first team to have this happen to them twice. Remember, they lost to Santa Clara in the opening round back in 1993. Again, less than 10 years after the field expands, Arizona gets bit, and then it actually happens again. The other times that it's happened, we saw the first time it ever happened was 1991, Richmond over Syracuse. We saw Coppin State beat South Carolina in 97. Hampton beat Iowa State. I vividly remember that one in 2011. And then who can also ever forget 2012 when it happened twice, when Lehigh beat Duke and Norfolk State beat Missouri. Now, I was not a Missouri fan back then, but it's for both of those 2 seeds to go out in the same tournament. We remember the legendary run of Florida Gulf Coast, aka Dunk U, over Georgetown back in 2013. Middle Tennessee State beat Michigan State in 2016, and then naturally Oral Roberts 2 years ago, St. Peter's last year, and now Princeton over Arizona again. I don't really see a scenario. I believe that Texas has got their game pretty firmly in hand. Actually, at this particular point, they're only up 10 on Colgate, but that game is just starting. It's just moments into the second half, and then some of the other 2 seeds. We got Marquette and Vermont, and then we got UCLA against UNC Asheville. I wholeheartedly expect UCLA to advance, as well as also Marquette, and quite honestly, they should, because I have those 2 teams in my forecast making it to the national championship game. The big drawback about Virginia for me is I actually had them coming out of that South bracket. So yes, my bracket is officially busted, and then I had Houston in there. But a lot of the time, I mean, I fill out one bracket a year. I don't even pay much attention to it because at that point, if your bracket gets busted, you really go into the rest of the tournament with a sour taste. So I like to play round by round by round. I was 62.7% last year. The way that I actually, pick these games, if a game goes to overtime, it's kind of a tie, almost like NHL rules. I kind of go like a point system, like 2 points for a win, 1 point for a tie, regardless of which team wins. At that particular point, I actually find it makes the tournament a lot better. You can score things a little bit easier, but this is going to be very interesting because now you've got Furman against San Diego State, who could be a dark horse in that bracket, and then naturally you've got Mizzou and Princeton. So either Princeton's going to be only the third team ever to reach the Sweet 16 as a 15 seed, or you're going to have Mizzou advance to that round with things kind of clearing out a little bit in front of them to where they would actually have Baylor, Creighton, or NC State kind of standing in front of them, because I don't see how UC Santa Barbara knocks off Baylor, even though Baylor has not been playing their best basketball as of late. But it's some of these other matchups today are between today and keep in mind, we got a whole slate. We got 16 more games tomorrow. We got we've got Michigan State, USC. We've got Kansas State, Montana State that could be interesting. We've got Kentucky and Providence. We've got Tennessee and Louisiana later on tonight. And that Kentucky game and that Tennessee game, there's a lot of people thinking that those two SEC teams could also be ripe for an upset. We've got VCU and St. Mary's tomorrow. We've got UConn and Iona. TCU, Arizona State is going to be a very, very interesting game. I think that might be the most interesting game of the entire slate for tomorrow. We've got Penn State, Texas A&M, that could be a good one tonight. We've got Iowa and Pitt tomorrow, coming off of Pitt's big win in the first four. That nail biter over Mississippi State. Whereas Arizona State, beat the pants off of Nevada and actually is starting to build a little bit of momentum going into their game. So let me know what you guys think. Was this the biggest upset that we're going to see the entire tournament? Even though there might not be another one in terms of the seed, do you see another scenario where somebody maybe gets bit? Who's going to be the first number one to fall? Who's going to be the dark horse that reaches Houston here in 2 weeks? And what else are you looking for out of this tournament? For me personally, if Kentucky were to lose tomorrow to Providence, this will go down as the greatest tournament ever, because yes, it is hard to believe, but I do hate some programs more than Ohio State, but it's only in basketball, and that would be Kentucky, Tennessee, and Arizona. And I don't see any of, naturally, with Arizona out, I don't see either of those two getting to the Final Four or really having a legitimate shot, considering Kentucky is one and done not even so much for the fact that they are now a college basketball vocational school, but it's also their propriety at this particular point for disappointing early exits. So again, let me know what you guys think. The Wise Guys will be with you tomorrow night live at 9 p.m. on YouTube for the first annual Wisey Awards. We are all set up to go, and we are going to have a lot of fun, so we hope you'll join us then. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow night.